Happy birthday, Uganda. We made 61 years, but what do we have to show? I think that's a conversation we are going to have today. And we shall be discussing or reflecting on Uganda's 61 years and whether our future is certain. Joining me to discuss this wonderful topic is a panel of distinguished ladies and gentlemen who will help unpack tonight's conversation and tell us whether the 61 years is worth celebrating and whether our future is certain. So in no particular order, I'll just allow my panelists to quickly introduce themselves and let the viewers know who exactly we have on the show today, and then we can begin the conversation. Otherwise, my name is Douglas Onen. I am your host and moderator for today. I'll start from my right extreme end. Please, gentlemen, introduce yourself. You're a familiar face on the show, so I believe the viewers already know, but you can
certainly I need no introduction.
But you do.
Anyway, Philip, Muliisa is my name. A good afternoon, viewer, and a good afternoon to the big people on this panel today. Good afternoon to the host.
Good afternoon to you.
I'm an African, a very proud African, and I'm happy to be here.
Very happy to have you here and very thrilled to get your insights into tonight's conversation. Raymond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, our dear viewers and the panelists. My name is Raymond Ochieng. I am a student of law at Makerere University, and I am really glad to be amongst such gallant discussants today.
All right, thank you. Looking forward to having a wonderful discussion. The only lady on the show giving us a wonderful smile. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name is Natasha Ahereza, a student at Makerere University, pursuing Bachelor's in Arts and Social Sciences. I think I'm glad to be here.
You think? You must be glad to be here. Yeah. Kalungi.
Thank you very much. My name is Henry Raymond Kalungi, but I prefer to be called Kalungi. I'm a fourth-year student of law at Uganda Christian University. I'm a Pan-African and more proudly Ugandan. I'm very happy to be here.
All right. Before we get into a deeper conversation, you know, the president previously, before we went to celebrate the independence, in his speech, he was advocating in his address to the nation. I think that was on the 8th after the national breakfast, talking about we should be Pan-Africanist. We should not front ideas of sectarianism or tribalism among others. Maybe the Pan-Africanists on the panel will help unpack that conversation. But let me begin with you, Philip. 61 years down the road, kindly put for us into context, or even before, put for us into context the events that unfold, that lead to our independence, and where we are today as a country, in your understanding.
Thank you, Drake. Unfolding the events that led to our independence, you must say it was a heated moment, dating back to 1947. I think that's when we first had a trial to seek or suggest that Uganda must become independent. If you remember the activities of Mr. Semakula Mulumba petitioning the United Nations organization that was newly formed then to really allow the East African countries, then 3 of them, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanganyika, to be allowed to get their independence at the time. His request was not successful. Well, he petitioned through the Russian embassy then, wrote a letter to the Russian embassy asking for diplomatic support to be able to achieve that desire. And you cannot live without talking about the resistance he got from Buganda, his homeland, because at the time Buganda was not interested in the independence of Uganda. They were interested in the independence of Buganda. So he faced a lot of resistance at the time. Fast forward, you go to 1952, the formation of UNC, Ignatius Musazi and Mr. Abubakar Kacha Mamayanja, and their activities in the Uganda National Congress, but also their activities before, sometimes working with the former And to highlight is the activities that happened between 1947 to 1952. You must not forget Ignatius Musa's, before forming UNC, he had been part of the formation of the Bataka Party in Buganda and the Uganda African Farmers Union. And the two engaged in a riot that actually led to, when the riot was at its peak, it had the killing of the then Prime Minister of Uganda, Martin Luther Nsibirwa. And you know how Musaz was arrested and all the actors and the union, the Farmers Union band and the Bataka Party band. So it was a complexion of activities. Then you go through the UNC and the exile of the Kabaka in 1953, Kabaka Motesa, and how it affected the newly born party, the Uganda National Congress, and Musazi himself, because the party had decided to front the quest for the independence of Uganda. And still, Uganda Kingdom was not in harmony with people who were pro-independence of Uganda. They wanted to get independence as Buganda, then the other parts could do their way. So still Musaz found resistance from Buganda. And that's how the party was actually not very popular until the exile of the king, when Musaz decided to use that as an opportunity to, front the return of the Kabaka. That's how he gained popularity here. Working with, of course, Mr. Abubakar. Moving through to 1954, formation of the Democratic Party. Fast forward, the UPC, after the breakage of the UNC, you had that collaboration for the faction of UNC that remained led by Obote, joining with the Uganda People's Union to form UPC in 1960. Got to the election in 1961 that brought the former Chief Justice Benedicto Chiwanuka as a pre-independence Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister of this country, though he came in before independence, whose tenure was short-lived. Independence comes in. We have the institution of a new Prime Minister, Apollo Obote, and the presidency of Motesa. That was short-lived, of course, as we shall be talking about later in the show. But generally, us getting independence, there were a lot of activities. You could see that there was something that was emotionally binding Ugandans to struggle for this one cause, right, getting independence and putting out the white man.
As you now wrap up on that history, I just now quickly twist now the conversation to the aspect of what are your anticipations on tonight's conversation. Just quickly, then I get to the other panelists and we can begin the conversation.
You see, for me, talking about independence and UgandaAt61 is, yes, a celebration where it's an anniversary. We have 61 years. It's not an easy journey, but I see it in a lens of trying to look at how far we've moved and measuring the magnitude of the failure we have as a people, not just as Uganda, but as Africa, and see how we can patch up and be better people and better nations of this world.
All right. Okay, those are your thoughts, and we shall get into deeper conversations when touching those thoughts. Kalungi, what are your anticipations in tonight's conversation, UgandaAt61? When you first saw the topic, what came into your mind? Because the topic says UgandaAt61. Is our future certain?
First and foremost, I would like to begin with the last point of the conversation that talks about the fact that is our future certain. So this means that they need the perspective of us, the young people, that will actually live through the future. So in this discussion, my perspective shows that our future is a bit uncertain because of certain factors that surround it. First and foremost, we lack an identity as a state of Uganda. Second of all, we have a vast loss of hope. As we continue with these discussions, we realize that there is little more hope. People are studying, but the discussions you get from the young people will be, we do not have jobs, we do not have this. So I think that the discussion will majorly try to focus on how we are to revive this hope and how we are going to make our future certain.
Okay,
Yeah.
shall get to that. Natasha, quick thoughts before we get into what do you anticipate in the conversation?
Thank you, Mr. Modulator. Basically, what I can talk about UgandaAt61, probably our future is certain. I strongly agree with that. Our future is certain. For example, when we get back to those days, and currently, for sure, we have developed economically, socially, politically, and besides that, Uganda as a country is a sovereign state where democracy is practiced and is put in power. Like,
I see Kalungi is laughing, but we shall get to that. Maybe he already feels he wants to start by rebutting, but conclude, yes.
yeah, so we have really achieved and we have done a lot.
Okay. So for you, you agree that our future is certain, and this alone tells us where exactly you lie. But we shall get to that. Raymond, when you received the conversation, quick thoughts on what you anticipate in the conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I feel it's only right and just that we first of all accord the respect and thanks to all the players who saw to it that we got independence, be it the political leaders by then, people who actually were involved in the struggle. For our independence was one born of bloodshed and a lot of commitment or work. So a special shout out to all those people who put in an effort. For the topic of discussion today, we are looking at UgandaAt61. Is our future certain? Well, I would like to draw context first into the theme under which we're celebrating this independence. We are looking at sustaining a united and progressive nation. United and progressive nation. We are looking at sectarianism and nepotism, which has come up with several political players here pointing fingers at each other. Yeah, but I would like to concur with my namesake and friend Raymond here that our future is not certain. And I have very many reasons as the show progresses to back up that claim. Otherwise, yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. Philip, is our future certain, uncertain?
You see, with socio-political evolution in life and societies, it is very unfair to predict the future.
Okay. So from here, what would you say? Should I say you're saying that
the certainty or uncertainty basis on our action as individuals in this country?
So that says the future is uncertain. But it's okay. Let's start with the person who says that our future is certain. Miss Natasha, the conversation here now, we are going to weigh into the various metrics to help us tell us whether our future is certain. Celebrating 61 years under the theme, sustaining a progressive and a
united and progressive
yes,
nation.
A united and progressive nation. What do you have to say? You argue that our future is certain because we have seen developments economically, politically, and socially. How so?
It's not arguing, but it's the fact our future is certain because all of us, we see from far we have come and where we are. We have really progressed and developed. Uganda, currently the National Resistance Movement, the leading party, it has promoted democracy, which wasn't there in those days. For example, in the days of Idi Amin government, there was no council for, like there was no people who were elected to go to the parliament, MPs weren't there, and there was no timely elections, because right now, every after 5 years we vote. That is democracy, and our elections are free and fair. We have freedom to vote. All of us we vote, so that is an achievement. And for example, in the days of other governments, most of them were dictators. Like Idi Amin Dada was a dictator. He used to dictate about everything. But right now we have freedom to speech, have freedom to live, freedom to everything. That makes it, that's a developmental step that we have taken as a country, Uganda. And another thing, if I'm to talk about achievements we have had so far, ever since we got an independence, 1962, we have developed economically. For example, in the gross domestic products, the map and everything like that, the graph and the timetable, how everything was since then. Right now we have progressed, because in 1962 we are in a negative, but right now we are in positive, meaning we have progressed. And according to the status was carried out. Currently it was in 2022. It was showing 5.5, but right now it's estimated to be 5.3. Yeah. But in those days it was in 6 point something, meaning we have developed. And another thing, Uganda, I'm seeing a future, because we have developed in a way, in an infrastructure way. We have constructed roads, whereby in those days of other governments there were small tarmac roads, there was Soria, but right now, almost each and every district, everywhere, our roads are worked on, and we have surely progressed.
Okay. All right. As you're making your submissions, I saw Kalungi and Philip looking at each other and smiling. At this point, I think I should have these two gentlemen come in. It's true that over the years, under the theme sustaining a progressive and a united nation, you highlight key issues that we as a nation have seen and we have achieved in terms of progress, in terms of promotion of democracy, or respect for human rights, highlighting the aspect of freedom of speech, economic development, and infrastructure development. Kalungi, we shall go into detail to ascertain what my friend Natasha here brings onto the table. But let us start from the point of freedom of democracy, freedom of the respect for human rights, but we're going to bring this under political stability and governance, because that is where the aspect of democracy comes in. So now we are going to ascertain whether our future is certain, first of all. But before we go into the sustainability of the future, let us understand where we have come in terms of democracy. So Kalungi, my question to you therefore is, under the question of political stability and governance, which also the question will still fall to you, my brother Philip, that how has political stability or instability in Uganda impacted the country's progress over the years?
Thank you very much. So the most important page that we have on our constitution, though it is not adequate legal authority, is our preamble. Our preamble makes cognizance that to get this state of Uganda, or to get to the constitution we currently have, though it has been amended 4 times, the 1995 constitution, they talk about our past that was characterized by bloodshed, that was characterized by turmoil, among those other things. So then this takes us to the current core, and we're driving back to that kind of regime. So for democracy to be there must be certain things that ensure democracy being there. The first thing being freedom of speech, the second thing being freedom of expression, the third thing being freedom of association, among all other political freedoms. Now, what we have in our state of Uganda, we are having a state whereby the freedom of expression, actually even the freedom of worship, and even the freedom of movement is restricted and bent to some individuals and known to the others. As we celebrated Independence Day, a very hurting video showed up on my phone. Members of the National Unity Platform were organizing prayers, freedom of worship. It's a constitutional freedom. They had a bishop, their secretary generals, among other people. As the prayers were about to start, an unmarked drone vehicle appeared and they whisked them away with heavy guns. They took them away. Up to now, we don't know where they are. So what does that mean? It means that there is no freedom of association. Furthermore, we have some laws that I regret to call useless. We have the Public Order Management Act and the Police Act. The police actually has a right to arrest you if they believe you will cause violence or you will cause some form of instability. What does this mean? It makes it that the police is the judiciary, the police is the prosecution, the police is the defense counsel, and the police is the police. So if the police just believes that you may cause anything, they arrest you. So what does this mean? This means that these institutions are then politically used by the ruling government. It will mean that if the government does not want a certain individual to speak about certain things, they will arrest them even before they speak them. It will mean that we operate a lawless state where someone can arrive at the airport and they are stolen away. I think that's the best word to use. They are stolen away.
Maybe guidance. What happened? The police, what they say is they did not, ferry the Right Honorable Chagulan. He was escorted to his premises.
If you're to look at that video, the gentleman did not consent to that escorting. The moment he stepped his foot on the ground, some gentlemen, we don't even know whether they are police. We just saw men wearing some reflector jackets, and they carried out away the good sir. Protecting him from
him free security to reach at his place.
You're to realize that when we're having the election, the very last election, it is actually that very gentleman needed protection from the very police because they attempted to kill him. So it means that the claim of protection or securing that gentleman is actually put to rest, as that those very individuals are the ones that, one, have the guns, two, have the right to kill because it's only the police that has that mandate to have guns, among others. So at that point, our democracy becomes a disguised democracy. Yes, we have elections after every 5 years. But then, which mode do we carry out these elections? An election, you should not just say that, yes, we have a free and fair election. It should even be seen by an unborn child. If you're to go to children that are in primary right now, and you ask them, do you have free and fair elections? Trust me, 90% of those children will say they do not have one. Why? We are having elections, you shut down the internet. We are having elections, you keep doing funny things. So at that point, that democracy becomes bad, and it actually reminds us of our preamble. One simple mistake, the army may pass out a bullet, they kill a certain individual that other people believe in, and our country can be taken to bloodshed. The reason why we had that theme of national unity in our celebrations of independence, because we currently do not have it, so we are trying to force it to be there. We have a section of people that believe that another section of people has taken up their opportunities. It may be just, it may be unjust, but then it becomes a common consensus. All people believe so. So if at all such a happening happens, it will mean that even the innocent people that are not party to what these people believe will want to lash or put their anger on these other people. So it takes us to a very dangerous state. What we need is reconciliation and acceptance. To also realize that there is a current debate of sectarianism that is spread by a lot of people. But then it brings two arguments. Some people say that must the people that talk about sectarianism be called out to be bad, or must the people that practice sectarianism be the ones that are called out to be bad? So if you have those two disparities, these people say that if you talk about this, you're sectarian. And this one says you are practicing sectarianism because whatever I'm talking about is the truth. It creates a lot of uncertainty, and it disturbs national unity.
All right. So what I get from your submissions is, first and foremost, you highlight the fact that you see on the aspect of promotion of democracy, the first most important thing is our preamble of the Constitution, first of all, captures the kind of history that we faced as a country. One with turmoil, one that has a lot of very, very tumultuous times. But that also cuts across to what we are facing today in terms of restrictions on human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of association, among others, which you greatly go ahead and rebut the argument raised by Natasha on grounds of promotion of democracy. Maybe when the time comes, she'll come and tell us, because Natasha's argument would therefore be that, you see, democracy is where you have people go to freely exercise their right to vote and then put their leaders into office. But let's first get to Philip, then I come to you, Raymond, and then we can take the conversation to economic development. What are your thoughts on the issue of political instability and governance in this country vis-a-vis what we're talking today?
Yes, thank you. Now, first of all, I want to agree with Comrade Raymond. It is quite unfortunate that 61 years down the road, we are talking about uniting the country, reconciliation, bringing together the people. What have we been doing? Because I would expect as a Ugandan that maybe the colonizers separated us. They had the divide and rule regime. They left 61 years ago. Why haven't we united? And that brings in the question of the political instability and so on. Every nation that grows, number one, must be the spontaneous activity positively in the development of that particular nation by its citizens wholesomely. Now, when you have a country, a nation, where the activity and interaction of citizens is based on who is in power, who is in leadership, where you have a nation where a section of the citizens do not believe in the institutions of governance, do not believe in the leadership of that particular nation, then you have trouble. Because then if it's the people to foster the development or put together all the aspects of moving in a positive direction into democracy and good governance and human rights and so on, it is the state or the governance apparatus that has the mandate and the authority and the power to enforce this, to make sure there is respect of human rights. Because of course you will have evil people anywhere, even in church. So if we have a people that are trying to have human rights and there is someone who is not respecting human rights, and the state that is expected to, override the situation, take control and bring back order to society, is actually allegedly accused of being the very institution that is creating the disharmony and the disrespect to human rights, then you have trouble. And more important, like he stated, the freedom of press and expression and assembly. You can do all other things, but the moment you want to do things in hiding, the moment you don't want people to talk, you don't want to be filmed, you don't want to be shown, even when you are doing good things 100%, but you want to do them in the dark, people will not believe you. If you're doing good things as you state, then why not allow people look at those good things? You are having a meeting, you are the military, you are protecting citizens, but you are beating journalists. They should not capture what you are doing, the good thing, the miracles you are performing for the nation. How do you convince people that I want to be a Jesus that works in, some kind of spiritual way? It doesn't work. And these are very important, not only in Uganda, but in South Africa, in China, in every part of this world. I can remind you. You are better scholars of history than myself. The First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, under the leadership of Thomas Jefferson, was about freedom of press and expression. Now, this is more than 200 years ago. And realize the United States, with all its power and the diversity it had at the time, they realized it was so important for them. And after that amendment, President Jefferson is quoted saying, if I was faced with a situation where I have to choose between instituting a government, referring to the cabinet and ministers and so on, and instituting a government or instituting the fourth estate and allowing freedom of press and expression, I would choose the latter. I mean, he would be comfortable working without ministers, provided there is freedom of press, there is, because he called it choosing between instituting a government and having a newspaper. And the newspaper then, because he didn't have radio and TV, he referred to all these forms of press and TV and radio and so on. So it is so important. And if you have a state that does not allow that, then certainly.
Okay, all right. Let me get to you, Ochieng Raymond. The conversation has been on political instability and governance. Let us talk economics. 61 years is, those are 6 decades down the road. And most of us on this panel, if not all, are borns of either the late 90s or early 2000s. And we are fortunate or unfortunate to only have been under one leadership ever since our birth. And we are termed as, she would say, Bazukulu. And right now, the issue is on economics, the state we are in. Do you think there is progress? The theme is sustaining a united and progressive nation. Have we progressed economically?
Thank you very much. As I did earlier on submit, I do not agree that we have actually made any progress as such. I feel, I would like to emphasize the need or the center stage, or rather importance of the political avenue, because it influences a lot of things. It is a politically functional country that influences better decisions that can also help it grow economically. So in that accord, I would like to actually give this panel and also the audience a deeper understanding of what independence is. Independence is a state of being independent. And what is being independent? It's being free. It's being free out of, you are not influenced by anyone. Whereas we have a black president, that is the president of our country, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, I can argue that we are not independent as such. How? This country, for instance, has been here for 61 years. Yeah, has been independent for 61 years. But out of the 61, we can give a staggering 40 to the NRM. And then the 20 is shared by the likes of Amin, Muliisa, the likes of all of them. Come to think about all of them. But I would like to further disagree with my sister here that what we have seen so far here is the work of the 20 years of the rest. By the time Idi Amin was president, we are looking at 28 planes. That was the fleet of the Uganda Airlines. Now we have 2 Bombardier planes, and people are very happy with 2. Earlier on, we had 28. Amin administration, which, by the way, most of you people criticize as a very bad government, very dictatorial, yeah? By the time he was leaving power, he had constructed 31 embassies across Europe. We are looking at even at the Trafalgar Square in Britain, with this Uganda House. In America, we have those different entities. That is something Amin achieved. It's really not fair for us to only dwell or criticize the government, yeah? Positive criticism is what pushes the country or propels it forward. Whereas we are having our own bias here and there, yeah. I am also biased, yeah. This government has not actually provided what I want, but we should also give credit where it's due. We are looking at the element of independence, and the LGBTQ law really tells you a lot about how this government has tried to be independent, despite or amid all the pressure from the Western world to impose that particular law on the Ugandan people. The Ugandan president or head of state and its parliament decided to take its stand. We saw threats of sanctions here and there, but that stand is still strong. And a law has been put into force, as my counsel here can also attest to, that we are looking at a government where in the event that there are things that go against what we hold dear or our norms, they can take a stand. So we are looking at, you pose the question, about economic progress. Economically, we look at certain aspects. We look at infrastructure. Uganda has the most expensive road in the world. That is the Entebbe Express Highway, with a staggering around 470 million US dollars as a cost. Whereas it's expensive, yeah, it's substandard as such. How substandard? There are some parts of that express that are actually, they are accidents, okay? But they've not reimbursed those barriers. They are still there. There are no lights like in other express highways. You understand? So what does that bring us to? There's a faction of the people who are in government, call them the fourth estate, who are embezzling those funds. Because I have made my own research. And if you're to look at 470 million US dollars, can construct 4 of that kind of road. 4 of them, but there is one so far. So that poses a lot of questions. One that seek answers. And I'm sure this panel here is going to address all those issues. And it's wrong for us to actually dwell on the problem. But let us try to actually brainstorm solutions to answer those questions and above all, propel the nation forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Raymond. Those are very wonderful insights you bring in the conversation. And the questioning of the issue of, first of all, understanding the state of being independent, being free. And you highlighting that we need not only to, at times, point out at the wrongs, but also point out at the positives. I think it's true. When you talk about the law, most Ugandans do agree with why exactly they passed the law and the essence behind the passing of the law, which is a good achievement among other achievements that this government has achieved, because this government has been in power for approximately, actually more than half of the time of our independence. But others would argue, like you have argued, that even the governments of Amin achieved more than what this government has achieved. But let us get to Natasha here to help us understand. First of all, if you have a response to the gentlemen who greatly disagree with you, first and foremost, but then speak to the issue of infrastructure development, which he highlights. We're talking about the economic development, but also clearly bring out the issue of infrastructure development, talk about economic development, but then you can go ahead and respond to the gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I want first to disagree with the Councillor Raymond here, who talked about the denial of human rights. First of all, Uganda is a developing country. And a developing country, you have to expect such wars everywhere. That is it. Those people of NUP you were saying they were organizing Simani, our worship stuff, whatever. I don't know. Those people, they do case themselves. First of all,
just a second to really understand this very well. Did you just say in a developing country it is normal to have war?
Human rights violation.
No. To have wars.
To have wars?
We should expect them.
No, it's normal to have wars in a developing country. Really?
Yes, because right now,
I think war is so extreme.
And it's too extreme a word to use. To have wars,
instability.
I think such misunderstanding, I can call it to be misunderstandings, because as a country we have opposition sides.
Okay, maybe you can say misunderstanding.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, misunderstandings. Because that's why we have opposition sides now, like UNUP, and it's given freedom to express its manifesto everywhere. That's why you see right now, your president, Bob Wine, is a country moving everywhere, like talking about.
I can see this gentleman want to start responding to you right now.
Talking about a lot of things, promoting tribalism, is claiming that Uganda they should rule, that Banyankole what, like. It's really, I don't know how I can call it.
I really apologize for interfering, but I want to understand your position. When you say that is why I see your president, that is why I see you, so who is you and who is the one you are referring to? What is your stand? Do you say you as a member of the NRM,
no,
as someone who sympathizes with the government in power? We want to understand.
Who thinks that Uganda's future is a certain?
Okay,
Because those myths,
so what is your position then? What do you then want to understand? Because if you're saying our future is certain, and you are greatly relying on the fact that it's okay to have instabilities in a developing country because, yeah, for the reasons that you've given, but also you still allude to the fact that you see that we have promoted democracy. Kalungi has responded to the fact. So then we want to just understand, 61 years down the road, Councillor Kalungi argues that the future is uncertain and he has given the arguments therein. Mr. Philip Muliisa does the same and he has given us justifications therein. My brother Raymond Ochieng has done the same. Now, what justifications do you therefore have? Because from where I sit, I see you're greatly supporting what the government has done. Because I remember in the year 2016, actually the year 2021, they rode with the slogan, securing our future. So is our future secure? Is our future certain?
yes, it is. You people, you need to first understand what independence mean, because you said being independent, you said Uganda right now is not independent, though it was given an independence. First of all, right now, if you aren't independent in your own country, you shouldn't be on this show being filmed. That is also part of being independent.
Freedom of expression.
Yes, freedom of expression. This one talked about freedom of socialization, but it's not being put into practice, though it was given to be part of the human rights. But sometimes people go beyond, and if people go beyond, law has to take over.
Must I respond to that?
Let's say complete.
That's where you find those people you were talking about, those videos which were circulating yesterday of Kamwocha. People turned a worship into a political, how can I call it? A political rally.
Is it bad to have a political rally in a democratic
It's not bad,
state?
but yesterday, first of all, yesterday it was an independence celebration. And first of
And they
all,
were celebrating the independence.
you were
by
celebrating
giving their
it
political
in a
views.
way of showing that you people, you are celebrating in a way of passing out your political issues, problems. That's why.
All right. Natasha, let's
Yes.
just have this easy on you. Let's understand. I think for a young generation, we need to be in position to accept when something is bad and when something is good. In my humble opinion, this government has done tremendously well, but also they have done outwardly bad. And we need to accept that where they've done good, we give them credit. Where they've done bad, we need to call them out and hold them accountable. Which then, when we talk about infrastructure development, talk about economic development, and you bring out the fact that the National Unity National Unity Platform having their association as well of celebrating prayer to commemorate our independence is causing disorder in the community. I think that's a very huge allegation to make. Don't you think so?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Let us bring Kalungi.
Thank you very much.
Let's Kalungi.
First and foremost, I'm not Councillor Kalungi. You may say that and I miss out on opportunities. I'm a law student. But then again, yes, these freedoms are not to be enjoyed without limitation, right? But then you realize that our constitution then sets up a metric on how to call out on certain instances that are extreme. And that is put in Article 43 of our constitution. It says that, that there can be a limitation to enjoyment of these rights for national security and other interests. But then in our other jurisprudences, there is a case of Charles Onyango and another versus the Attorney General. They try to simplify Article 43 of our Constitution by giving us the exact ingredients to prove where you can limit or even completely violate people's rights. So the first thing they tell you that, one, it must be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic state. Two, it must not segregate. And three, it must be acceptable. So if you're to use that tone of metric to measure what the government did to limit these rights, it is highly unproportionate. So to that effect, I believe that was not right. However, I understand your passion that you have for the ruling government. going back to the argument of economic development. If I told you to argue economic development, there are two metrics that I think we should use. One, if you are to measure our economic development vis-a-vis our past presidents, this current government shines. But if you are to measure our economic development vis-a-vis other states that are in our same time frame and our same enjoyment of freedom, our state does not actually fare to that extent. Then I would like to also respond, yes, our state has done good things, but then our state is not fully independent. Yes, I understand the arguments of many Ugandans that we passed the law that criminalizes the LGBTQ and the like. But then I would like to give my opinion. A law cannot enforce morality. First and foremost, if you're to talk about the argument of the LGBTQ community and the like, these people do not do their things publicly. They do them alone in their houses. How will the law go to manage them? So me, I believe that that was just a political card that the government wanted sympathy from the masses to get support. Then when we are to measure this metric of economic development of Uganda versus other states, we'll start with a core example, Entebbe Express Highway, vis-a-vis the Kenyan Expressway. The other one has 4 lanes, ours has a few. The other one is cheaper and longer, ours is very expensive and small. Then you start asking questions. If at all it was built in shillings, we would understand that yes, our money depreciates, but it's dollars. So it means that every single kilometer they used about $4 million. So $4 million in Uganda's context means that they used about 12 billion or more to just construct a kilometer. 12 billion. Do you know what 12 billion can do? So that brings in the question of accountability. Then when we are to look at other aspects of economic development, Uganda's highest foreign exchange earner is coffee. But what has happened over the past 20 years? We are having a disparity in priorities that we should promote. We are seeing a lot of, yes, I'm not saying that promoting dairy farming is bad, but then I'm saying that we are wasting a lot of money on an entity that brings in little money compared to the other entity. If all the energies our government is using in things like dairy farming is directed to coffee, we will have more funds generated. Then another issue, we have actually a misplacement of priorities. The priorities that get attention for government to invest are those priorities that garner political support. Uganda is, yes, industrialization is very important, but industrialization is not important to the economy of a common Ugandan. Yes, if you have to have industries in our country, we say we are having a toilet paper industry. At the end of the day, what will the common Ugandan that is working in that industry for a salary get? 5,000 shillings a day. So what happens if all our youths are drived into the industrialization sector? Yet when we're to go agriculture, we say that let's go coffee, let's go cocoa. And after that, we promote industries that are directed towards our agriculture. We say we are having an industry that processes coffee. Then we say we will sell a cup, we will process all the coffee and sell you a cup of coffee at 20,000. All the money will remain Ugandan. But then we are having a toilet paper industry, we are having iron sheets, and the rest, where their raw materials do not give a big direct economic impact to the common Ugandan. So at that point, I believe that our country has that slight problem. Then if we are to measure our development vis-a-vis other countries like Tanzania, we see that those countries have more accountability. In Uganda, the biggest problem we are having is our law on accountability, and that is the anti-corruption law. Yes, the government tried so much to establish it as a known ground or as a known law. But then with separating it and you say, yes, you have the Anti-Corruption Act, we do not provide grave punishments that hinder people from practicing this corruption. You say you're having an Anti-Corruption Act, someone steals 10 billion, they are convicted, you imprison them for just 5 years, they are free and they remain with the money. So that does not...
In some cases, you have a scenario where you say a person has stolen 10 billion and the penalty is paying a fine of 2 million.
Yeah, so at that extent, it then takes me to the best example we have in the section of accountability in our country, Idi Amin Dada. You do corruption, they kill you. you won't find 10 corrupt people. And that is what independence means. But then this independence, whereby we cannot impose punishments that deter people from committing crimes because we are hearing pressure from the international community, that does not become independence. We need to have a better economy, we need accountability laws that are effective. We need to have people appointed into positions of economic responsibility to be very accountable and to be people of high moral standard and high qualifications. It is actually important to note that for 2 years, our country has not yet had a new governor of Bank of Uganda. And this is not because we are not independent. Actually, this is because we are not independent. Because for a governor of Bank of Uganda to be appointed, they must first consult the International Monetary Fund. They must first consult the World Bank. Then there is another invisible hand that many African states do not want to agree with that actually exists. We have a conference of investors in Africa. Now, these are people in Europe, USA, that plan and invest money in Africa, the Totals and all those other big companies. So those companies, if they are we actually have people that run our economy, that invest in our economy. When you see that we have borrowed $5 billion US from the World Bank, that money does not belong to any country or any person. It belongs to certain investors. And when these investors invest their money, they need a return. So it means that we are economically not independent. Because if those investors say do not appoint that person as Governor Bank of Uganda, then the person won't be appointed. So I believe that economically, if we are to measure with our past regimes, yes, we have developed. But if at all we are to measure by world standards and the standards of our neighbors and our friends that gained independence with us, we are doing pretty bad to reasons of low accountability, to lack of economic identity, and a misplacement of economic priorities.
All right, thank you. Very wonderful analysis there. Philip, conversation is going to shift to social development and inequality. We can't have the conversation and fail to talk about access to education, healthcare, among others. 61 years down the road, we see the rise in illiteracy levels, though we have also seen an increase in access to education, as every year we see huge numbers of people sitting for PLE, sitting for USE, sitting for USE, among others. So the question to you, therefore, is how has access to education and healthcare improved in Uganda since its independence? Or do you disagree that we actually haven't seen any improvement?
Yes, thank you, Drake. Now, access to education, access to health. You see, we must not be comfortable with mediocrity. We are going to school, but what kind of school and to study what? What is the content of the curriculum we are studying as a people? A few months ago, there was a press conference, I think by Uganda Teachers Association or something like that. And they were saying most of the things they are giving to learners today, especially in the science field of study, are outdated. They are teaching things in physics, in chemistry that are no longer applicable. Technology has evolved and practically other things are used, but here, because the textbook says ABC, it's what you have to teach the learners. So yes, we have more schools, more than we had in 1962, more than we had in 1980, perhaps in 2002. We have more clinics and buildings of health centers. As to whether these are health centers as they should be, is something we have to debate. Because a health center is an institution that has medical workers, it is an institution that has medicine in there, it is an institution that has things that assist a patient in getting better, beds and so on. I remember there is a report that came out immediately after COVID that said government procured about 1,000 beds to be put in Nambole Stadium, acting as a temporary, medical facility for COVID patients and so on. But of the 1,000 that was procured, the supplier was able to deliver about 300 or 400. And again, after COVID, when they are being removed to be transferred to Mulago Hospital, Mulago received about 100. So the beds disappeared somewhere, somehow. From 1,000 to 300, then to 100. And even the 100s, most of them didn't have mattresses. And so that tells you how the health sector is. You saw how people went to hospitals in COVID and there was no oxygen. And there were no basic medicines. If you are privy to that documentary by Solomon Seranja, Stealing from the Sick, you saw how people steal medicine from hospitals and sell it on the black market, even outside the country. Come back to education, UPE. What is the quality of that education? I saw a report actually by government itself, I think of about 800 pupils sit for PLE. Then more than a half of those do not go into secondary school. Then even the less than a half that goes into secondary doesn't reach senior 4. And that is all so sorry and so sad for a country like Uganda that is 61 years independent. And really we can do better and we can be better people. It's not a story to celebrate as a country.
All right. Yeah, from what I get from your submission, the situation is appalling. 61 years down the road, my sister Natasha is smiling. Maybe you tell us.
And you see, I struggle to agree with my sister.
Yeah.
There is, there is some growth. You want to agree. You will say, for example, President Museveni likes saying in 1986, our revenue collection was 5 billion. Now it's 40-something billion revenue collection. And I want to agree. But a journey from Ntinda to Kampala city center, if it's 1 hour, and you get on a boda or a taxi to take you to town, and it's 2 hours down the road and you're not in town, then you must ask yourself, why is it that I'm not in town? Yet it's supposed to take me 1 hour. It's not a question of I've moved, I'm now in, say, what's the next stop?
Akasha Avenue.
I'm now at Akasha, but it's 2 hours. What happened?
All right. Natasha, you maybe I know they're giving a lot of work for this afternoon. But let's just quickly get to my brother, then we can maybe go for a short break. We're going to talk about infrastructure and technology. That's a point that she raises, that we have progressed in terms of infrastructure, in terms of technology. Have we, by
technology,
any way, 61 years down the road, made it?
Well, I would like to start by disagreeing with Raymond. That I'm a very pragmatic young man, and in so doing, I look at things the way they are. I'm a realist. Whereas it brings out the element of this government having drastically failed to account or not allowing even make strides of trying to combat corruption, I disagree with him on grounds that we have a unit that has been set aside, well constituted, the anti-corruption unit, but it goes back straight to the people. There should be serious mindset change. Why do you go into an office, you ask for a bribe, and you do not report? There is a toll-free number. You can actually access that. And that has worked in my place. There are people who have been held to accountable in my locality.
But you know that those people they hold accountable, people that take 1 million, 2 million, and not the big fish.
There is a stride in the right direction. That is my point. I am not a government spokesperson.
Maybe I need to remind the brother that a few months ago we had some people in this country that took iron sheets that did not belong to them. And there was overriding evidence everywhere that these people took iron sheets. And the anti-corruption unit was there, the IGG was there, the police is
They
there.
allude to have taken.
They-
There was no concrete evidence.
No,
Caso
that's
can
an evidence.
Raymond
So
can
whichever,
come in.
okay, alleged,
Alleged.
alleged.
The evidence, the
Alleged.
evidence disappeared.
Once it's not before court, it is not there.
It disappeared.
So, our
Please
moderator did task me.
I
to
would like to
discuss.
speak from the perspective of someone who is not a lawyer, who is just an ordinary person. I would but proceed.
Well, the moderator did pose a question that I should discuss how far we have moved in rigor technology. And I will take my primary stand. We haven't moved a lot, yeah? There is a long way to go. And I will discuss that in context with education and health. To start with, we are looking at our health sector, which is really struggling. We have hospitals that are understaffed and ill-equipped. Yeah. So we are looking at very few medical workers that even the patients outnumber. Well, the government has tried to establish health centers, 1, 2, and even 3 in different communities, but there are no people to work on the patients. So this is a very important aspect whereby, yeah, we really do not care about the infrastructure. Yeah, I can remain in my village in Tororo and not travel to Kampala. But when I fall sick, I will need to go to a hospital. So these are things that we should handle, for they are very delicate. So I'm looking at, we do not have the machines put in place. I'm talking of maybe Eastern Uganda, for example. We have just had a cancer institute that has been put in Mbale, which was recent. Otherwise, we had to travel up to Jinja. And by the time you do that, along the way, people die. We have very many mothers who die in childbirth. Why? Because we do not have the machines to actually help them out. So this government has left a lot to be desired, and a lot has to be done. Yeah. Now, looking at the education, our education sector is really poor and defunct. As we are dwelling on theoretical things instead of prioritizing the practical bit of it. Practical in the sense that, yeah, we are looking at carpentry, we are looking at tailoring. This is something that impacts skills on someone to survive. We have very many lawyers, like there are friends of mine who actually graduated from LDC. They pour them into the streets, very many of them, but there are no jobs. Yeah, white collar jobs, no. So I think we should really change this, and government has the capacity to change or revise the curriculum. And these people, both in the education and health sector, there is delayed pay. And even the little that comes is really, it cannot sustain life. So there is no element of motivation, and thus we look at people rendering services that are not actually up to the standard that we do desire.
Yeah. All right, thank you. You've heard it then there from the panelists in the first half of the conversation. And it's an interesting one. I feel for our dear lady here, Natasha, who is single-handedly trying to manhandle the gentleman.
She's really safe.
I hope when we come back in the second half of the show, we'll still be ascertaining whether our future is certain. As per the discussion, which is UgandaAt61, is our future certain? So kindly stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that break. My name is Douglas Onen, and before we went for the break, we were discussing UgandaAt61. is our future certain? And to unpack the conversation, I'm joined by, as I earlier on introduced them and introduced themselves, a panel of distinguished ladies and gentlemen who talked about various issues on the topic. We highlighted issues to do with the political stability and the governance. We talked about the economic development. We talked about social development and inequality, infrastructure, and technology. But largely, the conversation has ridden on the lane that our future is uncertain from the demographics and the statistics and the arguments that have been raised tonight. However, there is a dissenting argument in tonight, and someone who is giving us dissenting arguments that our future is certain. We have economic development, we have democracy, among all others. So let's just get back to the lady who greatly agrees that our future is certain. Before we shift gears and talk about security and regional relations, Natasha, the issue of infrastructure and technology is one that is very key, particularly technology. My brother Raymond Ochieng highlighted issues to do with tech, and his argument arises the issue that you see, the situation we are in is uncertain, and 61 years down the road is such a long time that we cannot, fondly or profoundly stand firm and say that we have made progress under this year's theme of sustaining a unified and progressive nation. So bring out the issue of infrastructure. We saw what happened with the NGO pothole exhibition. That speaks to the issue of infrastructure. We see what happened with the hospital exhibition, showing various hospitals across the country that are dilapidated. That speaks to the issue of infrastructure. We speak to the issue of transportation, road transport. His analogy that if you're to pick a taxi from Intinda to Kampala, a journey that's supposed to take even less than an hour, you take 2 hours. Is that development? Is that progress? Speak to the issue of infrastructure and technology.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. You people should appreciate. And small glitches should not zero down our independence and claim that our future is uncertain. Our future is certain. For example, the infrastructure side, you people talked about our road of Entebbe, and you're not seeing other roads which have been constructed and they are good and they have done a lot. For example, we have a lot of Uganda, yes, is a big country, it's not small. According to our standards, it's a bigger country, and our economic status right now is lacking, because whereby we have our accounts have been frozen and we are in a lot. That's what I can say. And
if you may allow me, Mr. Moderator, the contention of the gentleman and myself is not that we have a road. We want the road, but at what cost? Recently, we had a report, I think it was presented by the Lord Mayor, saying the construction of roads per kilometer in Kampala is 10 billion shillings per kilometer. And in comparison from Kenya, for the same kind of road and length, they use 3 billion. And in Tanzania, something like 2.8, 2.9. That is our issue. Why should it be 10 in Uganda and it's 3 somewhere and 2.8 somewhere? It is. Otherwise, we want the road and we want to.
You know, in the process of construction,
Yes.
the way how I constructed my house, it's not how you constructed yours.
Oh, okay.
We have different agendas and budgets.
Because for you would have had an engineer that was chewing the materials, and then the other one would have had an accountable engineer. Yes. So that is our contention on the type of people we contract to put these roads there and the prices they charge us. Is it a legitimate way, or is it influenced by an invisible hand of corruption?
There is no corruption. That's what I can say.
Maybe to just add on what the gentlemen are trying to argue about is this. We are looking at an aspect of this road being constructed. It's on loan, not from our own money, yeah? Yes. And we are servicing those debts that we have been battling with. And every time you actually make a way, even the roads, like that we are talking of the Entebbe Express Highway, the construction of that particular road is on loan we do not have the kind of money to actually facilitate the construction of that road. And every single time someone makes their way to Entebbe or back from Entebbe to Kampala, a fee of Uganda shillings 5,000 is paid on every trip you make. So that money is meant to actually service the loan, yeah, and also maintain the place. But we have not seen any of the above being done. And the government keeps picking loans to again to service or finance those other loans that have been paid. So where are we headed as a country, the lady?
To add on that, all of us here, no one is sure that the government is imposing loans to construct that road. Are you sure about
Yes,
that?
I'm sure. 100%.
Come on.
You're not sure because
Natasha, you know what?
Let's.
Natasha, let us. I want to say this on air, and saying it on air, I mean for a young generation, because we're trying to build a generation of leaders who accept where things are bad and things are good. For a young cadre such as yourself in the national resistance movement, and maybe any other party that you would like to ally with, it's always prudent and very good. Let us accept that certain things have gone bad, but also we accept that your government has done good. Yeah,
Yes.
but what are those improvements that we're pushing for, and that is what we want to see. And maybe we can proceed from there.
okay. To talk about
Infrastructure and technology.
infrastructure and technology. For example, I remember in 1990s, Uganda's current party that is leading, it put a program of awareness on HIV, AIDS, and through that it led to the reduction of HIV rates in Uganda, and it had to invest, and through technology, obviously you cannot, how can I call it, like
Underestimate?
no, like putting a program of reducing HIV rates in Uganda, because that is an improvement. That is something that has improved, because, for example, we Ugandans, you know how we behave, how we take things to be so light, and through that, like, how can I call it?
In fact, in the Ministry of Health report of last year, that was 2022, there was a 4% increase of the number of AIDS patients. So I really cannot fathom what the lady is talking about. And I'm sure this year it will increase.
It will be higher.
It will be higher.
The minister has
4%.
already stated.
But again, I think I get her point that she's trying to put across. She's trying to put across the point of using the technology to convey the message. It is important to realize that the spread of HIV/AIDS, the government does not be within that bed when you're having that unprotected sex. But then what does the government do to stop you from getting there? They come on radio. I don't think you can spend a day on radio without hearing a message about malaria and about AIDS. So at the realm of trying to communicate these messages, I think the government has done their role. When AIDS was starting in Uganda in the 80s, where we had people like Bongo Ledutaya, among others, you realize that there was a lot of stigmatization. And in that way, stigmatization spread more HIV/AIDS than all the other known mechanisms. So people that had AIDS people would not eat with them, they would close them off and the like. So the moment someone realized that they had AIDS, they went on a spree. They went on a sex spree to spread the AIDS. So, but right now you can realize that the government has tried to humanize the situation of AIDS. And though there are some inconsistencies, they have tried to fight the spread of AIDS.
It's on those inconsistencies that I'm going to try and hold you accountable. Not very many people actually access information that is either televised or even on radios. Very few people. And this government majorly, through TASO, has majorly dwelled on helping people after, not prevention. It's more of trying to cure people.
But they've actually tried to help people before.
I feel
you are a student of Makerere University, and I do believe in your halls of residence you have portions where you have government condoms, don't you?
Automatically they are.
Yeah.
That is already a preventive mechanism.
I feel
And
they are not doing enough.
Further,
Outreach
let me tell
programs,
you another thing. Almost every village in Uganda can access radio, right?
At least, yes.
Sure.
At least every village in
A
Uganda
village,
can
not
access
a home.
A village.
Every
village.
You know,
And the
sometimes,
entire village cannot-
sometimes you should not assume that the government is a utopia state that works with unlimited funds, you know. So
we
to
must
some,
be realistic.
yeah,
a little
we
bit
have to
and-
get
But,
some realism.
We are
There
looking
is
at
capacity.
democracies with way lower rates than our own.
But they have bigger
And
economies.
they are within here. No,
We have
are looking
agreed.
at
All
Kenya
right,
here
we have
for this-
agreed.
Okay. Let's just now bring the conversation back to UG@61 and independence. We shall get to that maybe another day and talk about sexual and reproductive health rights. Kalungi,
Yes,
from
sir.
the point that we're trying to build on from Natasha on the use of technology to help spread awareness and curb the spread of HIV and AIDS, it brings me to the issue of the young people, youth and education. 61 years down the road, at the moment, our population, I think, currently we are the third youngest in the continent, after Mali and Niger. That being the case, largely young population who are yearning to be in power, but do not have the capacity to be in power. So the question to you is, how are Ugandan youth shaping the future of the country, and what challenges are we facing?
All right. Thank you very much. So there are three most important resources that the youth need. The first one is education. The second one is information. And the third is money. So in Uganda's context, we find out that I think if I can say the education game is rigged. Quality education is not dependent on its slightly, I can't say entirely. It is slightly dependent on someone's academic ability, but then the second one is dependent on their parents or sponsors' financial ability. Whereas the government has put up USE and UPE, they're in a state that is undesirable for certain individuals. So yes, UPE is there, yes, USE is there, but they do not go ahead to provide the quality education because of the accountability measures. The teachers will not teach, and the government will not find out that they have not taught. So that becomes a problem. Then it stands out that almost every individual goes to a private school. Good private schools pay over $1 million shillings. So these youths cannot afford these schools. And yet again, when RAS government goes ahead to establish a mechanism, for example, government sponsorship for brilliant students, we find out that the students that will take this up are students of St. Lawrence, Seta High, Namiryango, Namugongo, among others, and not the clearly intended target. Yes, these parents of these students in these schools may not be able to fully afford, but then they are not the last at the food chain. So we get that problem of education. Then we get the access to information. Now, this is our most powerful tool as youths to foster development and all the others. So technology has advanced. That cannot be fully attributable to, okay, it can be partly attributable to our government for allowing technology to operate, because the government has a switch. They can switch off Facebook.
Did they have an option?
Yeah, they can have that option, but
Yeah,
that option ends up bloody. But to appreciate them for allowing us the option of, yes, accessing this information, it has made it a point that almost each and every individual is a news television. Every individual is a broadcaster. You wake up in the morning, take a picture, in the evening, it will have 2,000 views. So we have more access to each and every one. I communicate something here, someone in Mbale sees it in 3 seconds of its communication. So what does that do? That gives us actually more power to shape the future, because we easily communicate and the other things. We did not exist, or we did not see those other eras of those other presidents, even when they would have committed these atrocities we have now. But now that we have this technology, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have WhatsApp, something happens and it's reported. And to that point, I somehow sympathize with the government that all their dirt is easily seen. Now, how can the youth utilize this chance of information and technology to shape their future? First and foremost, there is a statement that goes foot soldier. a lot of youths are foot soldiers. We are foot soldiers of NRM, FDC, NOOP, a certain NGO, a certain person. So they easily mobilize us and use us for attaining their gains. It is very easy for Action Aid to get a group of youths and they give them 100,000 per day and they tell them to go and demonstrate about something and they'll do it. It is very easy for NOOP to get a group of youths, they give them lunch and 20,000 and they use them for a certain activity. And it is also very easy for NRM to get t-shirts and lunch and they mobilize youth. So the message to the youth is that we should have our own identity. Yes, we desire to live in that future, but in that future, it will be us that are fully accountable of it. If we waste our time being foot soldiers, instead of attaining knowledge, attaining information and working for our own betterment, we'll end up held up and unable to fulfill those dreams. So that is my message.
Powerful. Let's listen from you, Philip. The aspect of environmental sustainability. Maybe if you want to make a quick comment onto the aspect of youth and education, you're welcome to do so. But as the conversation draws close to an end, I just want us to quickly touch the aspect of environmental sustainability. And we are in an age whereby we cannot have conversations without not mentioning this. So the question to you, therefore, is what are the environmental challenges facing Uganda, and how can sustainable development be achieved?
Environmental challenges, a series of them. I think we're in the rainy season. We see how our capital city looks like in this season. We know what happens in the eastern part of this country every time it's a rainy season. The Bududa area, the Elgon area. We know how hot it has been in the past months, days, weeks. So really, climate change and its effects are here with us in this country. Unfortunately, some of the things we're supposed to do to reverse or perhaps keep it at low as it is now, we are not so much bothered. The alarm is sounding from international bodies, from activists, local and internationally. But we continue cutting down forests. Recently, we have the contention on Budongo forest. Mavira is still being cut down. I don't know how much is left as we speak. You know how much we're using plastic in this country? From water to clothing to all kinds of juices, and without very, very terrible disposal mechanisms in this country. Drink and throw through the window. You talk about the pollution of the water bodies, the rivers and streams and ponds and lakes. It is really unfortunate. And like I stated earlier, I think on this show, we must realize that we are endangered as a human species. We are endangered because of this climate crisis. And an organism that is endangered and they realize they're endangered, they have to change their ways. You cannot continue living extravagantly in a phenomena that is going to cause you extinction. So we have to really better ourselves. We have to behave. Otherwise, we are nowhere.
All right. I would like you to speak to the same, Raymond. Environment. Right now, we are facing extreme effects of climate change. In the year 2021 and 2022, we saw sub-Saharan Africa, which Uganda falls under, 52 million people were directly affected on grounds of floods, drought, among others. And majority of that population means Uganda also has people who are faced with that. That's why you see regions like in northern Uganda, Karamoja, extreme droughts, and there's the scarcity of food, among others. 61 years down the road, we are here now suffering on effects of our what the global North did, but also what our grandfathers did in terms of trying to push the agenda for development without capturing sustainability. So speak to the issue of environmental sustainability as we celebrate 61 years.
Well, the aspect of environment is majorly an act of God on nature. First and foremost, we'd like to thank God for having blessed us with one of the best climates on this earth. We have a majorly savanna kind of vegetational climate. And I would also like to challenge all of us here to observe a moment of silence for our colleagues and friends in Northern Africa who perished due to certain occurrences of the environment. May their souls rest in peace and the aggrieved find comfort. Well, I must say we should actually try and look at ways of combating all the dangers that come about with environmental calamities, if I must say. We look at what can we do as a people. Yeah, whereas it's a natural kind of a natural occurrence or an act of God. Yeah, there are some things we can actually do to impact that. We are looking at afforestation, for instance. And yeah, we should credit government. They have actually tried. There are very many laws that have been put in place that hinders people from encroaching into forests, cutting down these trees. And above all, there are government programs, mostly in my place where I'm from, where local leaders encourage people to plant trees. And at the district headquarters, there are trees. You go and pick them, then you go and actually plant them. Then in case you need to spray them. So government has actually tried. We are also looking at the aspect of trying to encourage farmers, because with certain environmental hazards like drought comes food insecurity. So government, in its bid to encourage farming, has also tried so much to actually school people or teach them on how to indulge in other farming methods that can actually support them during the drought or the change of weather. We are looking at irrigation per se. We also have as a country a meteorological center, though the element of its functionality is a question of opinion. Yeah, but at least there are weather forecasts, warnings are here and there, but people are still reluctant. I come from Eastern Uganda, and as my brother here did put across, they are always hit by landslides. People are reluctant to leave that place, despite government's efforts to actually relocate them. So somehow it goes back to we as individuals. And we actually who have the perception or who have gotten an education can do or relay the message and try to advise these people on how best to live their life. Otherwise, I think that is all.
All right, Natasha, issue of environmental sustainability. I'd like to pick your thoughts, then I get to Kalungi, then we can have concluding remarks.
Okay, thank you. What I want to say is that Uganda as a country, we are blessed with fertile lands, and our climates are very good. We have both rainy and sunshine, like we are well off. So what I can say is that, and another thing, the government has extended its programs in rural areas and also in urban, whereby they have taught people on how they should plant trees to get money or to get resources, and also they have been given seeds to go and plant, and they have been taught on how to do things, because as a country, we have very big lands where we can do everything. And what I can say is that
I want to live in your country.
you're already there, you're just not assessing it. You just need to click that button. So that is it. As on what I can talk on climate is that we are really good. Surely we are good.
Kalungi, environmental sustainability, 61 years down the road.
Yeah, first of all, the the environmental problem is a global issue. So the whole world has been doing bad in the past years.
Yeah.
Before we gained our independence, we had less industrialization, less mobility, less fossil fuel use, among others. But then even when we have all this development and the electricity, yes, we have electricity, but we cannot use it for the, actually the biggest environmental destroyer in Uganda is the use of charcoal. Many people, I don't think a Ugandan can take a week without eating food cooked by charcoal. So what does the charcoal do? If I told you to make food with charcoal, it means you use a sack of charcoal. For a sack of charcoal, it takes about 3 trees. And this sack of charcoal is only used in 2 weeks or at most a month. So if we continue with that tendency, we are using charcoal. In 40 years.
Drake, how many trees have you consumed since?
So it's a couple of them.
Yeah. So in 40 years, if we continue with this, it means that we won't have any forest. So what then is the best option? The best option is obviously electricity and gas. Someone can argue that people in the village cannot afford gas and electricity. But then you realize that people in the village, when they are using these trees for cooking, they do not cut trees. They pick branches that have fallen. They cut off branches. So it means that these people are actually using the trees more sustainable than us of the what? Of the towns. So at the end of the day, even when you say a town person is using charcoal, because charcoal is cheap, if you're to go to the cost of charcoal, a bag of charcoal, a full bag is about 100,000.
120.
120. And this bag of charcoal will only work for
precisely 2 weeks.
2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then when you're to look at that gas, the big one of the 50 kg, a 50 kg of gas is 300,000. You can use that thing for, if it's a family of 6, they can use it for 4 months.
It depends on what you're cooking.
Yeah. If you're doing heavy cooking, there's that very big thing. It can cook beans. Town people have pressure cookers. They cook beans in 45 minutes. So the question still remains. The most sustainable ways of this transformation is shifting energy use. We use gas, even electricity. Electricity for cooking is not as expensive as the charcoal. But Ugandans, we have a mindset. We believe that charcoal is cheap.
But also, even the government looking into reducing electricity tariffs.
Yeah.
Why do we have excess electricity that is not used? Because it is so expensive.
Yeah. And by the way, if you realize that once electricity is generated, it doesn't go back.
Yes, and we keep paying for it.
Yeah, so you have to use it. It's a constant flow.
Yeah.
So if our government can, actually that takes us to the question of umeme. Why is it that it's a private entity that manages the electricity? So all the profits go to the entity, not going to the government. Okay, if at all we allow him, we are paying expensive money. We will be contented that yes, we are paying all this money, but it is going to our military, it is going to our schools. But then we pay all this money and it is going to someone's profit.
On that question,
yeah.
Like let me say, government raises its revenue through taxation.
Yeah.
And they are auditing firms led by the Auditor General. So they tax those particular companies, but based on their profits.
But then,
there's a percentage for government.
But then you realize that if the government was managing it, it will have both the profit and the tax. Do you understand that?
You remember when UEB was in play? It's now umeme.
Yeah.
There is better service provision now. Than
let me tell you something.
Likely.
If you're going to get electricity at your home, you buy the wire, you buy the pole, right? If you are building the dam, the electric dam, what happens? It's our taxes that build the dam. So what then are we paying umeme for? We have paid for that
electricity.
No, that actually, is by the dam your taxes built.
Government money that generates. It is government money that sets transmission lines.
It is government money that repairs.
It is the only thing umeme does is collecting the money of electricity I use.
So in the alternative, instead of the government anyway, the contract is about to end, but we don't know whether they will renew it or not. Instead of the government employing another entity to manage, the government just had to use their mechanisms as the state to recruit competent individuals to fight the corruption and to fight those other evils that surround the electricity generation.
The government's argument would be privatization. And you know the advantages or merits that come with privatization, efficiency, and even management. I'm telling you, they would have embezzled a lot of money if that was a government entity.
So we concede that we have an ineffective government.
True.
I think that that is the...
So it has been a very wonderful and very long discussion, very interesting, I must say. And for me, the conversation to do with environmental sustainability is one that is very pertinent and I'm passionate about. I think we need to hold more conversations on more cleaner and reliable sources of energy. The aspect of just transition is a conversation we'll keep on holding. But thank you very much for the wonderful discussion you have brought tonight. So I'll begin with you. I'll begin with Natasha, the lady on the show, to quickly give us her parting shots and concluding remarks.
Thank you so much. It has been such a grateful and honored discussion between these gentlemen. You know, it's also not easy to defend yourself into.
We are really sorry if we made you uncomfortable.
But I've tried and I have won you, all of you. So.
Yes.
So I want to conclude saying that our future as Ugandans is really certain. We need to know that in each and everything there is a positive and a negative. And we need to focus much on the positive to gain more or do more. We shouldn't bring those small glitches to zero down what we have done. So I think if you see that and be open-minded and focus, we shall win this world.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's listen in from you, my brother Raymond. Ochieng.
Well, maybe before I give my concluding remarks on the issue of environmental awareness or the aspect, I would like our dear listeners and the panelists here to interest themselves with a current report by NTV into the deforestation or illegal lumbering and subsequent charcoal burning in Mavida Forest. It was premiered, I think, last week. I am profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled at this opportunity granted by Civic TV, and such engagements of young people really give purpose and meaning and a sense of direction. It is a step in the right direction, and we hope for further deliberations or engagements like this, for we learn a lot and get to liaise or interact. Otherwise, as for our country, we need to pray for it, yeah? And what we perceive as independence is a crude mockery of the word or the literal meaning, and above all, I cannot say our future is certain as such. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Philip, concluding remarks.
Yes. Thank you, Drake. It's been quite interesting and amazing, and glad I was part of this conversation. I want to say congratulations to Uganda upon making 61 years of independence from the British colony masters and whoever was involved. Congratulations to Kenya on your independence and all the other African nations that have celebrated their independence in the recent months. I want to send my condolences and sympathies to the people of Libya on that very tragic incident, the breakout of dams that killed tens of thousands in Dana City and thereabout. I also want to send my condolences and sympathies to the people of Palestine and Israel. We know, I think from last week, there is discomfort in that part of the world fresh war, I want to say there was fuel added to a war that already existed, and thousands of people are dying. Children, mothers, fathers, brothers and sisters are dying. It is unfortunate that we have to fight to that extent at such a time in the world, where we have very many other challenges. Climate change is here. Instead of joining hands as humanity, we are choosing to fight. It is unfortunate. And I really want to see the world come together, the United Nations and other global players coming together to resolve that issue. We can't settle for death in the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy that you focus on the aspect of what's happening in the global scene as well. And as Africans, we need to stand in solidarity with what's going on in the continent, especially in North Africa, the earthquakes, the people who have died, and people are still dying, but also in unison, we send out our voices to what's happening in the Palestine-Israel conflict. Carl's concluding remarks.
I'm obliged to have been part of this wonderful discussion by these amazing young people. In my closing remarks, first and foremost, I would like to implore you, the youth and Ugandans out there, to continue having these uncomfortable discussions. The discussions on tribalism, nepotism, sectarianism, poor service delivery, among others. Because it creates an avenue of consensus as it helps people let the steam off. And it prevents extremes because if the masses just wake up one morning and they start fighting instead of talking about these issues, we can be drawn into dangerous situations. I would like to convey my heartfelt condolences to the people of the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. That is I think it's a forgotten part in this world. There are a lot of people there that die, not because of their own decisions, but by decisions of some political actors and figures. And I also convey my condolences to the people of Palestine and also the people of Israel. It is unfortunate that in the 21st century we engage in useless wars. I also convey my condolences to the people of Russia and Ukraine. It is not good for humanity to fight, and for Ugandans, we should keep firm and keep strong, and strive for the most peaceful means, even when we appear to be squeezed to the corner, and to avoid driving our country to such extremes. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Maybe very lastly, we had a rebel scare in Western Uganda over the course of this week, Kasese. We really want to commend the UPDF for the job well done in trying to arrest the situation. And we hope it is fully secure now.
Yeah.
And hopefully sanity will prevail for eternity.
All right. Thank you very much. You've heard it done there from our panelists tonight. We've been discussing UgandaAt61, is our future certain? And I've done justice to tonight's conversation. Otherwise, my name is Douglas Onen. I've been your host and moderator for tonight's conversation. Kindly continue watching. See you again, same place, same time next week. Bye-bye.